here we are. I'm so excited to be here. If you keep including certain phrases in your vocabulary, in your content, in your marketing, your audience is going to start realizing how archaic, how outdated, how past current everything you're creating really is. So, for those of you who have not yet met in person, my name is Amber Griffiths. It is time to grab your legend pack, crank that speaker to 11. Welcome to Legend. So, as I said, it's time to remove certain things from your vocabulary. Do you remember back in the beginning of COVID, so 16, 18 months ago, all we ever heard about was moving things into this new normal and how daily routine would work, relationships, social interactions. It was all this new normal. And we went from not being able to comprehend that to accepting that and settling in to, yep, okay, yes, you're right. We are creating a new normal. And then somewhere in the middle, it switched. And we got so tired of hearing the new normal. I know I got someplace in the middle of last summer. I'm like, if I hear this one more time, I'm going to scream. I'm going to lose it. Everybody used that phrase, regardless of what they meant by it or how we were supposed to interpret it. That was the given phrase. It went from these trying times to the new normal. And now, if someone uses that phrase, if we hear the new normal, our reaction is like, wow, that's so 2020. Like, that is so archaic. We don't really use that phrase anymore. And now it's June and things are beginning to open up. Restaurants are offering in-house dining, whether they have a patio or not. Takeout isn't the only option. Theaters are opening up at more than 10% capacity. Live events are coming back. In fact, I just bought tickets for a live concert here in Salt Lake City for February of next year. I'm so excited. I know it's forever far away, but I'm just tickled to go do it. It feels good. It feels exciting. I'm excited to have something to look forward to. And sometimes now we use this phrase of returning back to business, or we hear this new way of doing business. And that is one thing, just that one phrase or the other shows your persona. When you talk about the world opening up, are you talking about returning or are you talking about creating something new? Because that in and of itself reveals its mindset. Now, that is probably enough for me to talk about. We could spend an entire hour talking about that, but that's not where I want to head today. But just know that you are well started to be thinking about that, being very aware of your vocabulary in that way, an expression of your mindset. Are you talking about the old past when toilet paper was easy to find and milk and bread was less than $2 a loaf? Are you talking about creating a brand new future moving forward? Are you stuck in the new normal? Or are you moving beyond into creating something incredibly amazing and new, even past what the new normal was? And whatever way you look at it, realize you are showing your persona. Now, if you were to look at your stuff and your typical brand and your content, all your things, when it comes to things like your bio, your social media profiles, your speaker one sheet, your sizzle reel, if you're a speaker, and if you're not a speaker, we'll talk about that. There begins to be this question of, does it look dated? You know, how you see a movie and it's black and white, or you can see a little crinkle, it looks like a hair moves across, and you think, well, that's the actual physical film. So you can instantly identify it as being older, outdated, like, oh, that's obviously from the 50s. If your bio, your profiles, your one sheet, your proposals, your sizzle reel, are they showing those same signs of being outdated? Like, oh, this must be the one you did before COVID because you haven't been speaking since then? Does your sizzle reel have any footage of you on a Zoom call? And if it doesn't, well, wow, that maybe that means you haven't been speaking for the last 16 months. It's a tell. It's not a judgment. It's just an indicator. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter if you include the Zoom or you don't. But if you're putting together something new and you're showing that you speak on stage and you can deliver a powerful message with energy across a virtual platform, that's the ticket. That's the key. Now, that's true if you have a speaking as part of what you offer or not, because now so much of what we are doing is on Zoom or StreamYard or some other virtual platform. If you're not putting some of that in your equivalent of a sizzle reel, whether that's an actual sizzle reel for speakers, showing you on a Zoom call on your site, occasionally on your social media, you're probably making a misstep. It's part of what we start expecting because it's going to make people wonder what's been going on with you the last 16 to 18 months. For so many of us in the speaking and the entrepreneurial world, there's a high likelihood we haven't been using a traditional resume in years, maybe even decades, like since the days of Word Perfect. But do you remember on those resumes? I'm sure everybody has had this. I'm not the only one, but there was something of a gap in your work history or in your education or something that took longer to accomplish than what most people did or what was expected. So instead, you came up with creative ways to kind of cover that up. Whitewash a few of the details. Maybe you didn't go year by year through your work history or school history. We'll just cover the last 3 jobs and not include a timeline. Here's the skills. Here's what I did, right? You get a little creative about that. Are you doing the equivalent of covering up what you didn't do during COVID? Or are you committed to making COVID, the time spent there, irrelevant? Because how you're showing up now silences any question about what you've been doing for the last 16 to 18 months. So, for just a moment, let's be like really real. It wasn't just that a lot of things or places or businesses shut down over the last 18 months. A lot of us shut down for the last 18 months. And some of that shutdown was out of necessity, right? We were taking care of kids. We were watching over our family, watching over our neighbors. We were trying to make sure that nobody got sick, nobody died to the best of our ability. Our energy and focus was elsewhere. And all of those things took such a toll. So even if we had an opportunity to go out and be and do, we didn't have the physical, mental, certainly not emotional strength to do and be any more than we were already doing and being. So right now, it's not just business or the economy and the world that is opening up. It's not just people on the street removing their masks. It's time for us to open back up. It's time for us to remove all the masks that we've been carrying around, all the cobwebs, all the facade, all the, whether that's facade of I'm too busy or the facade of everything's fine, just look. It's time for us to open up for real. So as you think about this future in this weird time warp kind of way, like looking back over the past, but really focused on moving forward, what is the sizzle reel you're going to create? And not just in your business, but in your life. Are we going to see that in the persona that you allow to show up? So drop me a note. What are you doing right now in this moment to make sure your persona, whatever that is showing up cranked to 11 so that we know where you're headed next? Or drop me a note and say, hey, Amber, this is what my stuff looks like. How is your stuff? How are you creating an experience for your audience that moves you so beyond what used to be, beyond the new normal, and into something so spectacular that you become unforgettable? Your persona is key to your connections, and it's key to your cash flow, and it is key to your collective future. Tap into it, own it, share it. It's what legends do. So until I see you in person, rock on.